Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We start today's video with what was supposed to be a quiet hotel stay for a group of road construction workers. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My neighbor's kids turned the hotel into a disaster zone. Back in the early 2000s, I was working as a field tech in engineering, testing soil, concrete, and asphalt for road construction. The job took me 2 states away for a 4-month stretch. The company paid for a hotel, and I got lucky. My room was more like a small apartment than a regular hotel setup. It had a full kitchen, a proper stove, a fridge big enough to stock up, and plenty of space to spread out. After long shifts at the site, I'd cook meals, stock the fridge with beer, and most nights I'd unwind by the pool. A swim and a cold drink were the best cure for the 2 a.m. starts and 12-plus hour days. Since it was a big project, around 15 of us from different departments were scattered across the hotel. Some evenings, especially when rain kept us off-site, we'd gather by the pool or someone's room to grill, swap stories, and enjoy what little downtime we had. It was a good routine, hard work, decent camaraderie, and enough comfort to make it manageable. One night, though, everything went sideways. We all rolled back into the hotel around 9 p.m., which for us wasn't late. When you're clocking in at 2 a.m., 9 feels like the middle of the night. We were dead tired and went straight to our rooms. No pool, no beers, no hanging out, just showers and bed. That same day, a family had checked into the room right next to mine. At first, no big deal. Hotels have families all the time. I showered, got ready to crash, and by 11 p.m., I was just about to fall asleep when I heard a loud boom against the shared wall, followed by shrieking laughter. At first, I thought maybe someone had dropped a suitcase. Then it happened again. Another boom, more laughter. Turned out the kids were literally jumping off the bed, launching themselves into the wall, and egging each other on. After the second crash, I called the front desk. I could hear the hotel staff calling the room phone, but the kids ignored it. The staff tried 3 times, no answer. Then I heard them knocking on the door, telling the kids to open up, but the kids apparently followed their parents' rules, shouted back that they weren't allowed to open the door for strangers. At this point, it was closing in on midnight, and the crashes hadn't stopped. 5 minutes later, blue and red lights lit up the parking lot, the police showed up, knocked, and this time the kids finally opened the door. The site inside that room was apparently a disaster zone. These 3 unsupervised kids had managed to completely trash it in the couple of hours since their parents left. The 65-inch TV, which had been mounted on a swiveling wall bracket so guests could turn it toward the kitchen or living room, was ripped off the wall and lying face down on the floor. Screen shattered. Furniture was overturned, bedding everywhere, food smeared on the carpet. It looked like a hurricane had blown through. The hotel called the parents, who'd gone out to enjoy a kid-free dinner for themselves. They'd made some quick food for the kids, left them alone, and apparently assumed nothing could possibly go wrong. Imagine their faces when they walked in to see police in their room, their children standing guilty as sin, and the hotel staff tallying up the damage. The bill wasn't small. Between the TV, the furniture, and the deep cleaning, it was easily thousands of dollars. The parents argued, of course, but that only made things worse. I don't know exactly what the final charges were, but I do know one thing. I watched them being let out in handcuffs for child neglect. That night, my hotel went from being a comfortable work camp to front row entertainment. After weeks of long shifts, the best sleep I'd had on that whole project came after listening to the cops drag those parents back to their car. You walked into that hotel expecting a crash pad after 12-hour shifts, and instead you got front row seats to the downfall of 2 parents who thought, kids will be fine. It turned their night into handcuffs and a fat bill, and your night into the best sleep of the whole project. And our second story. He mowed down my pollinator garden. Turns out harming protected wildlife is a big deal. Since February, I'd been working on turning my yard into a garden that would attract wildlife. I let the grass grow out and planted wildflowers, both native and non-native. I had bluebells, opium poppies, wild barley, and other plants. I kept it that way on purpose so animals could use it. Over time, bees started showing up, including endangered black Irish honeybees, and 2 hedgehogs made a home in the bramble patch. Birds started visiting more often, and I even saw butterflies that I hadn't seen in years. I felt proud of what I was creating, and I enjoyed watching the yard come to life. My neighbor didn't like it. From the start, he made comments about how messy the garden looked. He would stand at the fence and say things like, "That grass is getting out of control," or "Your yard looks scrappy compared to everyone else's." A few times he offered to lend me his Roundup and sprayer. He always acted like he was doing me a favor, but I knew what he really meant. I always told him no and explained that the garden was meant to be wild so animals could use it. I said the bees and hedgehogs need the plants and shelter. But he clearly didn't care about that. He just wanted the garden gone. Then one day I came home from work and everything was ruined. I pulled into the driveway and saw it right away. The entire yard had been mowed flat. The wildflowers were gone. The bluebells and poppies all cut down. The bramble patch where the hedgehogs lived was hacked to pieces. On top of that, the driveway had been sprayed with herbicide. I could smell the chemicals as soon as I got out of the car. The few plants that were left were already starting to die. My brown bin was packed full of the remains of my garden, cuttings, flowers, and branches all stuffed in there like trash. And there stood my neighbor, looking pleased with himself. He had his arms crossed and a smug look on his face. He told me, "No need to thank me. I know you've been busy, so I went ahead and sorted it out for you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was clear this wasn't about helping me. This was about getting rid of something he didn't like. I'd even seen him complain online before, saying how wildlife came to my garden and ignored his perfect lawn. This was his way of taking back control. I didn't argue with him. I went inside, grabbed my phone, and took photos and videos of everything. I got shots of the flattened yard, the brambles that were destroyed, and the herbicide damage on the driveway. I recorded him standing there too, still acting like he'd done something good. Then I called the police. I reported him for trespassing and damaging my property. When the officer came out, I showed him all the evidence. He took it seriously, especially after seeing the photos and hearing about the history between us. I also contacted a local wildlife group. I told them about the hedgehogs losing their shelter and how the bees had lost their plants. They were concerned because both are protected species. They opened their own investigation to see if any laws were broken regarding wildlife habitat destruction. Now my neighbor's facing the results of what he did. The police are handling the trespassing and property damage side. The wildlife group is looking into whether he can be fined for harming protected wildlife habitats. The neighbors who used to enjoy seeing the bees and hedgehogs in my yard have heard what happened. Everyone knows now who was behind it. As for me, I've started making plans to rebuild the garden. It's going to take time, but I'm hopeful the animals will come back once the plants start growing again. I'll be planting more wildflowers, rebuilding the bramble patch, and doing what I can to restore what was lost. The damage my neighbor did to his own reputation, though, won't be as easy to fix. People around here don't look kindly on someone who destroys a garden and harms wildlife just because they don't like how it looks. Rebuilding will take time, but your garden will come back, and your neighbor now has a permanent reputation as the local eco-vandal. Meanwhile, you've set a precedent. Mess with your property again, and the consequences will be even worse. Some people are so obsessed with control, they'll destroy anything that doesn't fit their narrow vision. And our last story. You fired me because I'm a woman? Say goodbye to your company. About a year ago, I packed up my life, moved across the country, and took a job that seemed like it was going to be my big break. I'd been in my industry for years, mostly through the family business, and had plenty of experience running warehouses and supporting operations. My new boss, Brandon, knew me well, knew what I could do, and offered me the job with promises of opportunity. I thought I'd finally landed exactly where I wanted to be. The company was run by an owner named Victor, who operated mainly out of a headquarters several hours away. I worked at a smaller supply warehouse closer to my new home. It wasn't manufacturing, just parts support, but still, I took pride in running it. For the first month, things were smooth, until Victor himself showed up one day. He stormed in without even saying hello and immediately started yelling at me. "Victor, do you even know how to run a warehouse? Do you have any idea how important inventory is before fiscal year end?" I stood there stunned because I'd already been handling inventory and maintenance. I'd managed warehouses 10 times this size. This place was the size of a big garage. Me. Yes, I've been doing it. Everything's in order. He kept berating me until I finally texted Brandon to come down. The moment Brandon walked in, Victor changed his tune completely. Calm, polite, even cracking jokes. He didn't say another word to me, not even eye contact. I brushed it off as a bad day, but the calls started coming. Every week, Victor would ring me up just to yell about something trivial. One time he said the warehouse was messy. It wasn't. Another time he accused me of not answering the phone. Eventually, I stopped taking it personally until he crossed the line. One afternoon, I told Brandon I was stepping out for half an hour to handle some apartment paperwork. My cell phone was tied to the warehouse phone line, so if any urgent calls came through, I'd get them. Sure enough, I get a call from Victor while I'm at the apartment. Victor, where the hell are you? I called the warehouse and your replacement told me you weren't there. Me, replacement? There's no one else at the warehouse. The call would have gone straight to me. Victor, you don't leave that warehouse unless I tell you. What if someone needs something important? He hung up before I could remind him that emergencies already forwarded to my phone. I got back, finished the day, but I was furious. Later that week, Brandon told me he was planning to leave the company for mental health reasons and the warehouse would eventually fall to me. It sounded promising until a couple weeks later when Victor called me again. Victor, how long have you been at the office today? Me, since 8:30, like always? Victor, that's funny because you've been terminated for a week and a half. Brandon should have told you. Just like that. No paperwork, no notice, no nothing. Fired by phone. I packed up and walked out. The next day, Brandon called me in. He was angry too, said Victor was completely in the wrong. Legally, I should have had my final paycheck within 24 hours. He even told Victor that I could sue him if he didn't pay up. That's when Victor's real reasoning slipped. Victor, I don't want that woman to be a problem. Pay her off, whatever she wants. Cash, no paperwork. Turns out, from the beginning, he never trusted me with the warehouse, not because of my experience or performance, but because I'm a woman. That's why he kept questioning me, talking down to me, never treating me with respect. Brandon left the company shortly after, sick of dealing with him. I walked away, but I wasn't done. My dad, one of the key players in the industry, was livid when I told him. He made me a promise. Dad, I'll drive that company so far into the ground they won't crawl out of it. 3 months later, Victor's company is circling the drain. Without me running the warehouse, shipping times have collapsed. What used to take a day now takes international transit. Customers are dropping them left and right. My dad stepped in and offered every one of Victor's clients free replacement units from his own company worth thousands each, plus full support and parts coverage. They all switched. Victor's customer base, gone. His reputation, poison. His revenue, bleeding out so badly the company is teetering on bankruptcy. Victor didn't just lose a warehouse manager, he lost his entire market because he couldn't stomach a woman running his little garage-sized operation. Now his empire is dust, and I'm thriving in a better job with people who actually respect me. Victor wasn't undone by one mistake. He was undone by his arrogance, his misogyny, and the fact that he underestimated both you and your family. He thought he was cutting out a problem. Instead, he cut his own throat. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.